Hey, what up? This is Zach Guilford from Midnight Mass, and you're listening to one of my favorite podcasts, Pop Culture Pastor.
Pop Culture Pastor.
All right, Cody. Hello. You ready for this?
I was.
Just another week. You know we've done this for over 3 years?
That doesn't seem right.
We've done this for over 3 years, and I think we've only not done a big pod maybe 3 weeks? 3 weeks out of, what is 52 times 3? Someone better at math should tell me that.
156.
Yeah. 3 weeks out of 156 weeks, we've done a big pod in the last 3 years plus. That sort of boggles the mind, doesn't it?
Does. And then you add up the countless hours that we have spent recording.
Yeah. Because we record radio stuff and watch-alongs, because I'm not even counting watch-alongs.
If you're not watching watch-alongs, tune in to From on Sundays, and you can then listen.
If you're not listening to watch-alongs.
Yeah.
Watch From, which we're currently watching. I know that's confusing, but if you're not watching From,
please do.
It is currently, I think because Severance took so long to get season 2 going, it's really occupied the space of the most confusing show. Nobody knows what's going on, and everybody has theories kind of atmosphere.
Also on a platform that no one has.
Yeah, I watch it on Amazon Prime.
Because I will say, even with Severance, like I'll mention it and people are like, I've never heard of that.
Oh, you're talking about Severance.
Well, both of them.
Yeah, because
Well,
MGM Plus.
Yeah, people are like, MGM Plus, I haven't heard of that. And then they're like, Apple? You can subscribe to Apple TV?
See, that's the I get so confused at that because, like, you didn't watch Ted Lasso?
No.
I don't think there's a bigger crime right now. If you're a fan of entertainment and you have streaming, you pay for streaming networks and you have not watched Ted Lasso, I'm like, what are you doing? It's not just that it's a good show. It's that it might be the best television show ever.
So I have a friend who, she's huge into soccer. Literally has a Sporting KC license plate on the front of her vehicle, loves funny shows, knows who Jason Sudeikis is. And I'm like, you surely have seen Ted Lasso, because that's who I dressed up as for Halloween. And she's like, no, I've never heard of it.
What?
And I'm like, how?
That's what is the saying? That's a Gen Z thing. Baby, what is you doing? Is that from a viral video of some sort?
I believe so.
Yeah. What is you doing? Seriously, though. I mean, if you haven't watched Ted Lasso, just get Apple for as long as it takes you to watch it. You'll scream through it because it's hard to stop watching.
Honestly, get it right around Christmas break. Finish Ted Lasso. Start Severance season 1. Season 2 will drop early January, and then you will be ready to watch Severance season 2.
I have just started my third rewatch of Ted Lasso. I'm in the first season. I'm watching it for a third time. It's just so stinking good.
Well, we are taking a pause from Apple, and then we'll get back right around Christmas break, rewatch Severance, so that way we're ready for Severance season 2.
I don't know why you said pause weird, but
it's how the kids pronounce it.
You sent me a trailer. Actually, DJ sent us a trailer.
No, I sent the trailer.
You sent the trailer.
I sent the trailer because
sometimes they get confused in our group chats. But it was you. You sent it to me and DJ.
Yes.
A movie.
Okay, so there's a podcast. I'm not going to mention their names because they're not worth mentioning.
No. Only listen to our podcast and support our podcast. No.
But Matthew McConaughey was on.
Oh.
And
we haven't gotten him yet.
Yet. He's in the artists we would like to get. It's great podcasting when you hear me stutter and stumble, but I sent a clip about
okay, yeah, I got
this, and then like DJ sent the official trailer, and yes, so DJ, good job. Yes, this is a real show.
Okay, so I did not. So I just got finished. By the way, this is Pop Culture Pastor. My name's Dave. Cody's here.
I am.
We're 5 minutes into the podcast and I haven't said what the name of it is yet. But okay, so Cody sends me all this stuff during the day, and then DJ sends stuff. Everybody sends me stuff, and I've got like ADHD, so like often I don't like having the notification on my phone, so I will look at it, see that they sent me like a reel or a video or an article, and I will pledge to go back to it. But the problem is I completely forget about it as soon as I put my phone down, and I don't go back to it. So I did not watch the original clip of the podcast that Cody sent me. However, if you catch me at the right moment, I will watch immediately if I have the time and the space.
Now I'm questioning, did I actually send it to you or did I just send it to Jackson? So I'm a part of way too many sendings.
See, that's hurtful. Anyways, DJ then out of the blue sends this Tiptoes trailer. This is a movie from 2003.
Yes.
I start watching this trailer. I was immediately I'm convinced I'm being Mandela affected. I'm like, there's no way this movie is a real movie. There's no way this movie exists. You guys are trying to mess with me. Tiptoes, starring Matthew McConaughey and who else here? Kate Beckinsale, Gary Oldman.
In a role of a lifetime.
In the role of a lifetime. Oh my goodness. Listen.
And Patricia Arquette.
There's a ton of people in this movie. Peter Dinklage.
Before he's like super huge. Because at this point, people know him for Elf.
Yeah, pre-Game of Thrones, Peter Dinklage. I start watching this trailer and I'm just positive this is not a real movie. I do not remember this movie. Even with the big names, I'm like, this is made up. And I would have remembered Matthew McConaughey and Kate Beckinsale, right?
No, you wouldn't.
Let me read you the blurb here. Carol falls in love with Steven without knowing much about him. When Carol finds herself pregnant, it forces Steven to expose a secret. Steven happens to be the only average-sized person in a family of dwarves, including his twin brother, Rolf. Played by Gary Oldman.
I just want to pause and point out the average normal child is named Steven. And then we give the child that has dwarfism the name Rolf.
Oh, so you're saying they used a trick there.
That like you are...
To hammer you over the head with... He's normal and brother is different.
Yes.
First of all, 2003, the word midget is used, 20 times in this trailer, like in the first minute, feels like. It's just hitting you. And it was hard to watch, Cody, because we do not prefer that word.
And evidently in the movie, Matthew McConaughey will use the correct nomenclature.
Yeah. And so... I'm watching this trailer. This trailer is bonkers. I literally didn't think it was real. I had to Google it after the fact to go out and make sure it was real. So Tiptoes is a real movie. They can't even agree on it. Google says it came out in 2003, but IMDb says it came out in 2002. That's how under the radar it is.
Matthew McConaughey went on to the Two Bears, One Cave podcast.
I thought you weren't going to mention him.
I'm going to mention them. Maybe we'll give them a little bump.
The pop culture pastor bump. Yeah.
Yes. And they show him, Matthew McConaughey, the trailer for this. And he's like, oh, I almost forgot about this movie. And they get to the part of Gary Oldman in a role of a lifetime. And Matthew McConaughey's like, I wonder if he would agree with that.
When that happened in the trailer, I almost spit out my drink because I was taking a drink of something when I was watching the trailer and it almost went everywhere. Gary Oldman in the role of a lifetime. And I'm just like, nope, I'm pretty sure it wasn't.
So this premiered at Sundance.
Oh, no.
I don't know what the reception was at Sundance, if they got a 15-minute standing ovation or not.
Well, it's got a 22% on Rotten Tomatoes.
So what it is most famous for me, is that it got movie reviewed on Tosh.0. back in 2011, and that created an internet whirlwind around it, or sped it up, if you will, because it was already on like different sites as like, how did this movie ever get made, and like how did they get all these big names in it? Because there's like other semi-big names that in faces that are familiar that you'd be like, oh my goodness, how did they get this person too? But after watching the movie review by Tosh that took up like 40 minutes, the uncut version, I was like, I don't know if I need to see this, because Daniel broke it down almost step by step. It's only a 90-minute movie.
Yeah, it's only got 9 reviews on Rotten Tomatoes, which is astonishingly little for a movie that takes place after 2000.
I feel I need to watch it and then become a critic and review it.
And half of these reviews are well after the fact.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, they're well after the fact, and they're all bad. The later they are, the worse the reviews are. Although there's one top critic who reviews this, Variety critic Lisa Nesselson, back in 2003. And she says this is the little blurb they put for her review. Despite bracingly peculiar premise and astonishingly fine performance from Gary Oldman, Pick is an honorable failure. So there you go. If I don't remember to post this trailer, to share this trailer from the social media page, listeners, remind me. After this pod drops, I need to share that trailer, because it's just such a bonkers trailer. And my first impulse after seeing the trailer was, oh, I got to see this movie. Now, I've been told that maybe there's some subject material that maybe we don't want to review it or talk about it on the pod. And maybe
we'll
not.
have to preview it first.
Yeah. Maybe it's not something we talk about on the pod, but I was just so, because it is rated R, but I was just so interested just from the trailer alone, because it had such big names in it. And I thought, I have never heard of this movie, and I hadn't. This was not in my memory banks. So y'all have to let us know if Tiptoes was something you remember, if you were old enough to remember it.
Or if you just remember it being reviewed on Tosh. Because that was literally as far as I wanted to go with it.
I mean, this is Matthew McConaughey in his rom-com era. And I'm looking at the cover, like the poster, and it looks like a rom-com. I mean, it's him and Kate Beckinsale, too. So she was in the one with John Cusack, Serendipity. Like, the rom-com is, like, huge around this time.
So she's coming off Underworld when this comes out.
Underworld, yeah. She was big in that.
And if Daniel Tosh is being an honest critic, you're going to hate Matthew McConaughey. But everyone in the movie has empathy for Matthew McConaughey. It's bananas.
Yeah. Ah, man. By the way, so Google, it says 2003 up here at the top. IMDb said 2002. And then in the About section, release date, January 2004. So I don't know, man. I don't know. There seems to be some discrepancy, which just backing up the Mandela effect here. But yeah, I don't have any information on like how much money it made at the box office. I'm assuming it didn't.
It didn't get a wide release.
That's crazy with these names.
And it's supposed to be an art film. It's supposed to be an art film.
Which is hilarious if you watch the trailer. Because the trailer goes straight rom-com and pretends like the subject material they're talking about, like in particular the little people and how to address them, like that's clearly a part of the movie.
Yes,
where Matthew McConaughey's character and the girl Kate Beckinsale is not sensitive to that.
She wasn't around it as a child,
but the trailer plays like it's just straight kind of cringy rom-com.
I think that there is supposed to be a romantic component. I don't think it's supposed to be a straight up comedy, but it plays out as one with how it's edited and how some of their choices they make with the characters.
I'd love to know what Kate Beckinsale thinks of this movie, because she comes off like the trailer. She just looks like an awful person.
I know how the movie ends. I won't spoil it
Oh,
for you.
have you seen it?
No, I
Oh.
literally watched a 40-minute spoiler about this movie.
Oh, okay. I was confused. I thought it was the podcast, but they were reviewing it.
Daniel Tosh was reviewing it on Tosh.0, and there was always a longer, uncut version of his review of the movie.
Did you watch this at work?
No.
Do you have time in your day to
No,
watch a 40-minute
no.
podcast?
Like, I watched this probably 13 years ago. Like,
Oh, okay.
literally, this, I don't know how you and DJ just discovered it. It just came up the other day for me because
we're Gen X, man. In 2003, we were being cool somewhere.
Because
We didn't have time for this.
like I said, Matthew McConaughey went onto this podcast, and like, so it's back in the zeitgeist, if you will, because the two comedians brought it up because they thought it was funny that he was in this awful movie.
Yeah. Well, it's, like I said, huge names. And for that time period, too. I mean, those are big names, but
Gary Oldman, fresh off his Friends' success.
I just felt you put the picture in the pack. That was one of the greatest Friends cameos of all time, by the way.
Well, that's why he got a shout out.
Okay. So there is some news we need to talk about. I want to talk about the box office first because, well, no, let's other than to say Venom: The Last Dance did well. We'll get back to the box office when we were
Venom.
when we get to Venom. It is Venom. That joke never gets old. It was probably the best part of the movie. Dwayne Johnson.
The Rock?
Yeah, The Rock. Dude, what is wrong with him? It seems like he's getting crazier by the day.
He's just rearranging the hierarchy of things, Dave. Although I will say, well, let me say it after you shared this news.
Well, there's a couple things that we need to talk about here because, first of all, The Rock did an interview, and one of the big things that came out of the interview was how this movie Red One. Have you seen the commercials for this?
Yes, I have.
Someone kidnaps Santa, played by J. Jonah Jameson, or the guy that plays him, who does like the insurance commercials.
And the voice of the yellow M&M.
Yeah, I'm not trying to denigrate him. He's awesome. But yeah, he's really skinny. He's like a really fit Santa. And The Rock and Chris Evans.
Chris Evans is in the role of a Ryan Reynolds.
Well, yeah, but I'm trying to explain his role. Okay. It's like someone said, what if we made a movie like Taken, but instead of his daughter, it's Santa Claus. And instead of the Santa Claus kids know and love, it's like this skinny, buff, macho kind of not nice Santa Claus who's kind of short with people. And what if The Rock was like his head elf of security? This is just on the premise alone. I think I rolled my eyes like 4 times when I saw the trailer in the theater when we went to see the movie we reviewed this week. Mm-hmm. I just can't believe this is a real movie. Anyways, so imagine The Rock watching Oppenheimer in IMAX.
Yes.
And saying this. I was thinking, holy blank, Red One on this screen with this technology, it's going to be game over. Talking about this crazy Santa Got Kidnapped movie, which is currently sitting at 36% on Rotten Tomatoes.
Now, I will say, I have seen movies that were critically bombed by Rotten Tomatoes do well in the box office.
Yeah.
And there's potential for box office success.
How many of them were The Rock movies? I mean,
I feel like all his movies are not critically well received. And he's had some blockbusters.
Yeah. Okay, so there was also, like, he addressed this controversy. So do you remember when all this stuff started coming about how, like, The Rock was always late to the set? And among other things, that he would like pee in water bottles, urinate in water bottles.
And leave them all over? Yes.
Yeah. And so I guess in this interview for GQ, he addressed this. He said, yeah, that happens. I've said 1,000 times, hey, I'm here, come and ask me and I'll tell you the truth. And he's talking about peeing in the bottles. He's like, yeah, I do that as if that's a normal thing. Like, what? How much time are we saving here?
Tons.
Like, I mean, especially if you're just doing number one. I mean, we're talking, what, 30 seconds, 45 if he washes his hands? Which he's The Rock. Maybe he does, maybe he doesn't. Who am I to say? It's not like I'm going to be like, dude, did you wash your hands? No, he's The Rock. He could grind me into dust.
If he was doing the Jared Leto Morbius where like crawling to the bathroom, then he's saving a ton of time.
I just had a mental image of Jared Leto pulling himself by his arms to the bathroom on the floor and everyone just going,
so he might be saving some time. I will say that my dear friend Dwayne will have box office success soon. Not necessarily Red 1, Moana 2.
Yeah.
That's going to make bank. You heard it here first. Capitalist Cody predicting money to be had.
It kind of makes me sad because I kind of like The Rock back from his wrestling days. I kind of dig The Rock, but I think he might be like, I think his ego might be eating his ego. It might be eating his brain.
So I've had this discussion with some of my friends that are big wrestling guys. He might be number 3 or number 4 on like the best wrestlers turn actors list. And John Cena and Batista are definitely ahead of him.
I mean, you can make a pretty good case for Roddy Piper.
Mm-hmm. I might even go Terry Funk.
Terry Funk? Yeah, dude. Terry Funk was in Raising Arizona, I think. He's been in a lot of movies as kind of like, well, he was in as the bad guy, but so he's one of the bouncers in Roadhouse. Yeah. Yeah, Terry Funk, man, had a good career.
I'm almost going Hulk Hogan with Mr. Nanny.
No. By the way, has Donald Trump named Hulk Hogan like the Secretary of Health and Human Services yet?
Not yet.
I just need Hulk Hogan to be in that cabinet telling all the kids to say their prayers and eat their vitamins. I need it.
Jesse the Body Ventura.
Predator?
I'm not saying he was great, but
Running Man and Predator with Schwarzenegger.
I'm going to say, and Andre the Giant. How can we forget Princess Bride's classic? That Dwayne may not be who you want as like your lead person unless it's like cookie cutter this type of movie.
Okay. Yeah. Yeah.
He might be your next Jean-Claude Van Damme or Steven Seagal.
Yeah, by the way, Jumanji 3 is in production. And when I heard that, I just thought, well, God, just take the earth now. Like, seriously, what are we even doing here? What are we even doing? Who is giving money to these people for the Jumanji series?
My parents.
No, Cody's parents. Come on. Really?
They really like them. I still haven't seen a single Jumanji movie all the way through except for the Robin Williams one.
That one was good.
Yeah.
Because Robin Williams, I saw parts of the first one and I just thought, phew, this is dog meat. That no way that this is going to do anything. And then they're going to make 2 more.
They already made the second.
Well, I know, but they're going to end up making 2 more.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's terrible. Other news, Denzel Washington may have let slip that some early production is underway on Black Panther 3 and that he's going to be in it. And that Ryan Coogler, who wrote and directed 2018 Black Panther and the sequel Wakanda Forever, is writing a role for him specifically in the 3rd Black Panther movie.
As my dear friend Chadwick once said, there is no Black Panther without Denzel.
Oh man. And instantly I'm like, you sent me a tweet related to it and said, is Marvel back? And I thought, well, I mean, Black Panther series, I don't know that it ever went away. I don't think anybody liked Wakanda Forever as much as the first one. had obviously a major challenge without Chadwick. But they get Denzel for another one. Oh, people are going to turn out for that one.
Marvel's at least back with being able to get all the big names that they want. Now, if that turns into success or not, that's a whole nother thing. But with Gladiator 2 coming out and people being kind of all in or this is going to be trash, like there's no real in between.
Early talk on that is so amazing. I'm trying to not talk about it because we're going to review it in a couple weeks.
That I think that will let you know how serious my friend Denzel may or may not take this acting gig of Black Panther 3. Although I think with Denzel, you're always going to get a quality performance.
Well, one of the things you're hearing is that Gladiator 2 might be ridiculous, but Denzel is Denzel. And so nothing would make me happier than to watch a ridiculous movie with Denzel just acting the nerd out of it. Just being straight up Denzel in the middle of a ridiculous movie. That just seems wildly entertaining to me.
And if it is bad, can we ban Ridley from making movies?
Ridley's another one of those dudes who you're just like, what are we doing? Gladiator was nominated for like 12 Academy Awards.
It was.
And now Ridley Scott is just like making wildly crazy bad movies and being like, I don't care, I'll make more. He's just like, he's going like really bitter old man.
Like Napoleon, I can't get back that time. I watched it in theaters. I lost money and time.
Anyway, Denzel in this interview also kind of announced he's only got a few roles left before he retires, and Geek Jackson's not ready to talk about it yet.
No.
Robert Griffin III, former NFL quarterback, now an analyst, listed his 5 best Denzel Washington movies. John Q, Remember the Titans, Antoine Fisher, Training Day, and American Gangster. Are you okay with that?
So I really do feel John Q is criminally underrated.
Yeah.
And I will say Robert Griffin III and I are about the same age. Mm-hmm. And so maybe that's why we have John Q up so high. I would definitely have some other movies definitely in consideration. I don't know if all those would make it into my top 5.
Yeah. It makes sense, the age thing, because there's one glaring omission there. And that is the one he makes the splash with on the scene. And that is the movie Glory, which is just, if you've never seen Glory, it's a Civil War movie. Incredible. Incredible movie. Denzel, Morgan Freeman, Matthew Broderick.
Does he have the Malcolm X movie on there?
No.
Okay. That one I would have on there. Because Denzel as Malcolm X, I nearly joined the Brotherhood.
Oh my goodness. And that's something because, you know, in any group of people, like if you throw Cody in a random group of people, there's a 99% chance he's the least black person there. Just saying. That's not necessarily an insult or a pot. That just is.
Yeah. The Nation of Islam nearly had a convert.
Okay, Cody, I wanted to give you a couple minutes, just a couple minutes space here. Okay. I did not tell you I was going to do this.
Oh.
Okay. I'm just giving you the space. It's like a little gift. And I want you to talk about the Penguin. Because I know you have some thoughts about the Penguin. I did not watch it. So make your pitch.
My pitch is, if you liked the Batman movie, directed by Matt Reeves.
I thought it was good. Yeah.
And you liked Colin Farrell's portrayal as the Penguin.
Mm-hmm. Thought it was great.
You get more of that, and you get a lot of street level Gotham, the suburbs that aren't kept up, they're run down. You get a lot of the crime families that are constantly mentioned throughout the comic books. You get some of that backstory. You get what makes Oswald the way he is. You fall in love with these characters that they introduce. They have tremendous story arcs. Tremendous. And it's like The Sopranos brought back, resurrected, but it takes place in Gotham.
That is high praise.
The series, potentially series finale, I assume they're not making a second season.
No, there's talk.
There's talks. I just assume they won't. The series finale or season finale, phenomenal. My wife was about to cry tears of joy, and then literally 5 seconds later, cried tears of sorrow.
Wow.
It has ramifications for Batman 2. Whatever Batman 2 is going to be called, it has ramifications for it. It's not just one of these projects that's unconnected. Like a lot of the complaints were with the early Marvel series. Like, oh, well, WandaVision really didn't connect a lot with the Multiverse of Madness, or it left a lot to be wanting. And Loki really didn't have an effect, and all this and that. This has an effect. This is definitely connected to this Elseworld trilogy of movies as it's being pitched, because I think Matt's going to make not only Batman 2, but Batman 3. So we're going to have 3 movies, and you're going to see the Penguin. Not prominent in Batman 2, but he'll make some appearances, and if the rumors are true, he'll be prominent in the 3rd one.
Yeah. He's underselling, by the way. Cody. He sent me this. I'm going to quote the message you sent me earlier today. The Penguin may be the best comic book property series ever.
I'm not lying. So the only other one I would put up with it is Sandman.
Yeah.
From beginning to end, there was never a dull moment, where with Sandman, the first episode, you're literally watching him in a cage. So like the first one, it's existential dread. But that's how the comic series starts. And once you get past it, that series just picks up and kicks tail. But no, this, oh my goodness, every episode, at least an 8 or above on a scale of 1 to 10. And the last shot of the series, chef's kiss.
Okay, there you go. So if you haven't been watching Penguin and you've been wondering, that's a glowing review by Cody. I haven't watched it. I can't say.
It's on Max.
All right. It's time for us to do our movie review. You got an extra long news segment because we talked a lot about that movie I thought was made up, but turned out to be real.
Tiptoes is real.
Yep. We're going to take a break. When we come back, the best Christmas pageant ever. That's right. Christmas is here.
Pop Culture Pastor.
Well, Cody, it's the most wonderful time of the year. It's that time. We're breaking the seal.
We are. Mariah Carey, you can come out.
Well, she already has.
Oh yeah,
I've already heard Christmas music been played. So like our little downtown, our town here, about 8,000 population of our little southeast Kansas town. The downtown speakers are already playing Christian Christmas music.
I already have my Christmas tree up.
There you go. And so, yeah, this movie came out, the best Christmas pageant ever. And I thought, okay, it's a Christian movie, so it's kind of right up our alley.
It was a book first.
And it was. It's based on a 1972 children's book by Barbara Robinson. And this basically... okay, well, let me give you the deets first. Should we give you the deets first?
Please do.
All right. Sitting at 90% on Rotten Tomatoes, by the way.
Is that critic score, audience score, or combined?
That is critic score. The audience score is higher. It was like at 98% at one time.
That's bananas.
It is. Christian movies, the audience score usually is pretty inflated.
Yes.
Directed by Dallas Jenkins, director of The Chosen. If you haven't heard of that, it's a wildly popular series about Jesus and his friends. I made that sound like Scooby-Doo and his friends.
There is
They solve mysteries and they go and they unmask people. No,
there
it's not
is
like
some
that.
artistic interpretation with it.
There is. Some people don't realize that, and it kind of scares me sometimes.
Yes, and then some people make inferments about certain people represented, and then they're like, well, of course this person was that way. And I'm like,
Yeah. I've heard you talk about this before. That bothers you.
yeah, it does, because I'm like, I don't know if we can say Matthew was this.
There is some decently big names in this. Judy Greer, who's just been in a ton of things. Wonderful character actress.
So I knew her from the animated series Archer.
That is the weirdest thing to pick out of her filmography, by the way. I mean, she's literally been in tons of things. Arrested Development?
Yes, and she's in the newer Halloween movies.
Oh,
as
is she?
well.
Okay.
So, but no, Archer, her character was funny. And so, like, whenever she pops up in shows or movies, I'm like, hey, it's that lady from Archer.
So basically, Judy Greer and Pete Holmes, comedian Pete Holmes.
Yes.
Who
he does a great Batman.
Well, it's just it's so funny, the movies, these Christian movies, the actors they're getting now. Because Pete Holmes is not like, he's not a clean comedian. He cusses.
Some, not like,
No, it's not terrible.
he's not over the top just saying it just to say it like some do.
He's a funny dude, though.
Yes.
He's really good. Lauren Graham is in this mostly as the narrator.
Yes.
She plays the older version of the little girl in this movie.
Adult Beth.
Adult Beth, yes. And so, yeah. Other than that, no one you'd probably recognize. Molly Bellwright is the young Beth. And she's in this movie a lot, a kid actress. And she's pretty good. And then there's a whole gaggle of other kids. Essentially, what you're looking at here is there's this church at the center of this. They do this Christmas pageant in a small town every year. It kind of you could see this being played as like one of those Hallmark Christmas romance movies now. Like, this could be the backdrop for one of those movies.
Oh, yeah.
But it just doesn't have the romance.
Which I was thankful for.
It's a quaint little town, the town of Emmanuel. And they're putting on, the big church in town puts on a Christmas pageant every year. It's tradition. And every year it's this kind of big deal. And basically what happens, there's an accident. And the lady in charge can't do the pageant. And so this Grace steps up, played by Judy Greer, this kind of young couple. I think they're supposed to be youngish couple. And there's this group of kids that are like the town bullies.
Oh, my goodness. They are the worst.
The Herdmans, they all have red hair. So like immediately you're thinking the O'Doyles from Billy Madison.
Like, as soon as they popped up with red hair, I'm like, oh, they don't have souls.
O'Doyle rules. But it's all about how this group of kids, the Herdmans, want to be a part of the pageant because they have ulterior motives, because they're snacks. Which this was so church, by the way.
So much of this was so church.
Yeah.
But the snacks as the luring device, that has been a thing, a tale as old as time, really.
Yeah, that was amazing, actually. And so basically this movie is about the kids who you would say are the good kids that are scared of the Herdmans, who are kind of the bad kids. But as the movie goes on, as you might guess, your ideas of who is good and who is bad they don't switch, they kind of melt away. Because you see, just like a good movie should, I think, as far as a Christian movie goes, that it's not that someone's bad, it's that they've been broken somehow. And you see, as the movie goes on, that this group of kids, the Herdmans, have very specific reasons why they might be the way they are. And as the pageant plays out, there's drama, of course. There's hilarity. It's genuinely kind of a funny movie. And it's all about how this pageant plays out.
There's tears.
Yeah. And we'll talk about that for sure. But that's like, this isn't a super deep movie.
No. And I think it keeps true to the book.
Well, yeah, it's a kid's book.
Yeah.
But for the adaptation of it, and granted, I've never read the kid's book.
I've listened to someone read the kid's book.
Yeah. But I would imagine, I think what they've done with this is they've turned it. I mean, frankly, Cody, by the time we got to the end of this movie, I used the word delightful a lot. It was delightful. It was just a delightful time in the theater. And by the end of the movie, I was like, this movie's great. Just a wonderful story.
I'm not going to lie. I told my parents after I watched it, I'm like, you guys need to go to the movies and watch this. And they're like, we don't go to the movies, Cody, and we don't like the things you typically like.
We got to have your mom on the pod one time. We got to do a Be Kind rewind on a movie she likes.
Oh, the little drummer boy.
The little what now?
The little drummer boy.
What's that? I know the song. There's a movie?
I'm pretty sure that's the name of that movie.
What movie?
Oh my goodness. Now we're going to review
The Little Drummer Boy. I know it's a song. Oh, it's a 1968 film.
Yes.
It's a cartoon, like claymation.
Mm-hmm. I can't tell you how many times I had to watch that as a kid.
It's Rankin and Bass. It's stop motion.
Yeah. No.
Okay.
She's
a big fan of that.
It and Rudolph was on every Christmas season at least 3 times. Yes, I told them they needed to watch this. And I'm like, you should even invite your Bible study. And they took my advice and they went and everyone enjoyed it.
Yeah. It's a very good movie, but I don't want to get in to spoil it right away. Let's go the way we normally do here and say, Cody, what was good about this movie?
So I think what was good is that it portrayed church people as people, that they weren't all perfect, and that at times you could see them trying to use their Christianness as a way to show that they're better or that these people don't belong, and that by the end of it, that's not what Jesus would do. And so it didn't try to glorify the churchy people or come across as they're victims. No, they're just regular people.
Right.
And so with a lot of Christian movies, either the church people are the most amazing thing since sliced bread, or they are overly persecuted and they're in the United States, but they might as well be in China.
Yeah. If you go back, one of our first 5 podcasts, I think we reviewed the Kurt Warner movie.
Yes.
And we talked a lot about the state of Christian movie making because we are pastors. So it's just something that we're exposed to from time to time. And for the large part, if you're not a Christian and you're thinking, well, Christian movies suck, I would say, well, you're not wrong.
I hear you.
Most of the time, they're pretty bad. And the reason is for exactly what Cody said, because the people aren't real people. My hunch is, and I think we may have talked about this on the pod back then. My hunch is that they just want Christian money. And so the people in these movies tend to be ridiculously good. Like the God's Not Dead movies.
Oh my goodness.
I don't know any students, I don't care how Christian they are, that would have gone to the lengths of what the main character in that movie does.
And I don't know any philosophy professors that would have tried to argue by using Kant.
Or Descartes.
Yeah.
Well, if he's trying to disprove God using philosophers, that's a bad place to start.
It is. Unless you're going Nietzsche, and then that's still not a good spot.
No, because Nietzsche didn't say he didn't exist. He just said God was dead, which he wasn't really saying literally. Yeah. Anyways, this isn't Philosophy 101.
That's another episode.
But yeah, I dig that the characters in this movie were real people, and many of the quote unquote villains of the movie, at least for a little while, are church folks.
Yes. And like, I think that everyone gets their fair arc. That like, oh, not everyone is going to stay inherently good or bad. They're constantly going in between because they're living life.
Well, it's a perfect Christmas movie in that way, in that, nobody sets out at the beginning of their day like, I'm going to twiddle my mustache and be evil today. Well, maybe there's people out there, but most people don't do that. But we can end up being that to certain people because the world beats us down.
It does.
And this movie does a great job of showing that, like people behaving poorly, but also what the season of Christmas does for people, which is kind of creates this light in a dark world. And it's great. What else is good?
I will say the kid actors, they're not asked to do like too much like stuff for the most part during the movie. There is one individual that I think is asked to carry a lot and does a lot of good work with what she does. But like they don't detract like, oh my goodness, this is so poorly done. 'Cause like there are some kid actors where I'm like, this is too hokey. I don't need this. Even in like family movies, I'm like, don't give the kids like a soliloquy, just have them say a few words. But no, the kids do a good job of acting in this.
Yeah. Specifically Beatrice Schneider, who plays Imogene Herdman, the oldest Herdman.
That's the one that does some heavy lifting.
She's got a future. Oh my. Yeah, she was excellent. Just very, very good. What else? Anything else?
So I guess I will go with, maybe I'll give Dallas a shout out. I think he did a good job directing that. Like it captured the small townness that it was supposed to be, captures like the struggling church vibes, and how people put all their hopes into the weirdest things, and how people have preconceived notions, and like, oh, we get a good story told throughout. The imagery matches up. So I may not be the biggest fan of The Chosen, but he does a good job with this.
Is Dallas Jenkins kind of like the Christian entertainment it guy right now? Like, does he have a blank check? Can he just do whatever he wants now?
I imagine he probably has close to that as any Christian director producer has.
Yeah. Yeah.
Just because like, oh, if you haven't seen The Chosen, it swept like every church in their mom off its feet, and like, oh, you gotta watch this, you gotta do that. And
and even though it's a dramatization, I do respect, and I haven't seen all of it or even a majority of it, but I've seen enough of it to know that it's entertainment, but he is aiming for the heart of the gospel. He's aiming for the heart of what it's saying.
And I may have beef with how people, again, put their hope in odd places.
Yeah.
And so it may not be him. It may be his viewers.
It takes creative liberties because it's entertainment, because the Bible doesn't fill in those gaps. Because the Bible is not meant to be entertainment.
It's not.
And so, yeah. Okay. What I have on what's good is that it's just so sincere and genuine. Mm-hmm. They're not, when we say it's a Christian movie, you might think, oh, it's going to have the obvious proselytizing in it. Like the one thing about, what was the movie that we both liked that I thought was one of the best Christian films of all time? The Jesus Movement one.
Oh, well, wasn't it called the Jesus Movement?
Was that what it was?
I think so. Let me look as you talk about it.
Yeah. That movie, I think was very good.
Jesus Revolution.
Jesus Revolution. It was a very, very good movie, but it was meant to proselytize. Like even after the movie's done, the pastor from the church who like funded it comes on and starts talking. Like it's very genuinely a Christian attempt to bring the gospel to people, which is fine. There's nothing wrong with that. But when you do that, it's the story doesn't, it loses some of its sincerity.
Yes.
Because I'm telling you a story, but there's an ulterior motive to it. Now, I'm not saying the ulterior motive is bad, but in the frame of storytelling, like for instance, when you were a kid, did you ever like not want to hear like Aesop's fables? You remember Aesop's fables?
I do, but they weren't read to me as a kid.
They weren't read to you? Okay, but if they were, I would get annoyed. I'm like, I don't want to hear those stories because I know it's just a trick. You're just trying to teach me some sort of lesson. I just want to hear a story.
Yes.
Right? That's kind of what I'm saying, is sometimes you just want to hear a story. You just want to be entertained. You just want to watch a movie. And I think you can do that. I think the reason that Jesus walks around telling parables, telling stories, is because they're powerful like that. They don't have to be some obvious attempt to sway you. They could just be telling a story and they can tell you all these things. And so I think when the Christian entertainment industry makes these movies, this is a perfect movie to look at and say, look, they're not trying to proselytize anything. They're just telling you a story.
Yes. And like for families, you can go watch it and there's not going to be something that you're like,
yeah,
oh, how dare I let you show this to my kid or say this in front of my kid. You know that it's going to be good and safe. And the story's worth telling. It's not just this blank garbage that some Christian movies are.
Right. And what's good about that is by the time you get to the conclusion of the movie, what it's all leading up to, the pageant, right? And like, look, you don't have to be a churchgoer to know what this pageant probably entails. It's Christmas. You know what Christmas is about. It's about the baby Jesus in the manger. And so the herdmans, the kids nobody likes that are rough around the edges because they may or may not have parents around. Clearly, you never see their parents in the movie.
Not once. I figured at the very end you would.
Nope.
And I was wrong.
The implication is that these kids are taking care of themselves, that they're orphans, basically, and that the older siblings are taking care of the younger siblings. That's the implication. And so by the end of the movie, when they have cajoled and muscled their way into the starring roles of Mary and Joseph, there is something that happens in every Christmas movie. Every good Christmas movie has this moment where the main character gets it. The spirit of Christmas hits them.
Yes.
And in the case of this movie, it happens in front of a live audience of church people who are cynical, bitter, who are trying their best to keep these bad kids out of their Christmas pageant. And what I love about this is what this movie is saying is you don't have to proselytize to show people that faith is good. You just have to live it. And so when Imogene Herdman, the main character, when it hits her, when she's playing Mary and she's holding the baby, and the whole movie she's fascinated with this picture of this painting of Mary holding the baby Jesus. She's fascinated with it. She stares at it at some points in the movie. When it hits her, because obviously she's got parental issues. Mm-hmm. When it hits her as she's holding the doll and she starts crying, and it has an effect on everyone in the room. And that's honest, because all of a sudden, these people's faith is renewed because they see someone else having this genuine, sincere reaction to this story. And that's what's so beautiful about this movie. And I think that's why we do what we do, Cody. That's why we love pop culture.
/ I also think for a lot of people, like the Christmas story, the Bible itself, it's so long ago. Like, and it's not really real to them.
Yeah.
But you see it played out, and like they kind of lull you into this moment by like having her burp the doll, and it's played for laughs.
Yeah.
And then just out of nowhere, it hits, and they see like, oh, like the real reason that the season is about Christ, the Christ child, and the Christ child's parents, like having to go through this. And like there would have been tears, and there would have been issues, and like we have been focused on all the wrong things and doing all the wrong things instead of like there is hope in this moment, and that there's compassion and love, and everything's all coming together at this exact time.
Yeah. It's all the feels you should get from a Christmas movie.
Yep.
And by the way, that burping scene is huge.
It is.
She's burping the doll, and everyone kind of laughs. But then they realize she's doing it because she did it for her younger siblings.
She did it for her younger siblings, and Mary probably burped Jesus.
Right. And that's also played for laughs. But someone in the church is like laughing, is like, well, that's ridiculous. And then another churchgoer says, well, baby Jesus probably burped.
And whenever we think about this one night a year, it's like, oh, well, they probably just had it perfect, even though they were not in an inn. They were like in a stable, essentially, in a cave.
If you're a parent out there, think about how hard having a newborn is for the first time. Like some people listening probably have multiple children, and I think as you get more experience, it gets a little bit easier. But that first time, it's scary, and you're sleep deprived.
And they are roughing it.
And we're doing it in like climate controlled houses, and it's still hard. And they're doing it in a barn, essentially, with farm animals.
Yes. Which I love the Herdmans. Their line of questions throughout the whole getting ready for the play. Perfect. Oh, like, why would they have them go to a barn? Do they not know this is God?
That's another thing that's really good about this movie is it really is witty and funny. And it's not a perfect movie. Like, it can be hokey at times.
Yes.
But it's really just kind of, like I said this at the beginning, it's just delightful.
It's a Christmas movie. Like, I expect a certain level of hokiness with most Christmas movies.
Yes, absolutely. What's not so good about this movie? Besides the hokiness that's present with most Christmas movies.
I mean, at times, I don't want to say that I had like traumatic reliving of moments based off certain characters. But like, I'm like, oh, I've known people that have said or done something similar, and that kind of made me sad. But I will also say that like I did say that Christians weren't presented as the heroes throughout the whole movie.
Church folk look kind of bad.
They kind of like they could have made them look a ton worse, but then I think you lose the heart of the story because it really isn't about them, and they even get a redemptive arc throughout the play or the pageant. But like if you were to put on your critical lens, you could be like, oh, they would have been so much worse. Most of the people after the fire, because there was a fire, that most of the people were like, it has to be those Herdman kids. Yeah. And like they're all yelling it. And then everyone's like, well, where did those Herdman kids go?
By the way, that's not just Christian parents.
That's every parent.
I worked in the high school for a couple of years, and I've been around schools, and I've been a youth pastor. And let me tell you something. When someone's kid gets in trouble at school, the reaction by the majority of parents is, well, what did someone do to them?
And I'm like, there's times your kids just aren't saints.
Yeah, you work in the school.
Yes. And I'm baffled. Like, why are you talking to the principals like this? My parents did not love me, evidently.
Yeah, I was like, I want to go to my parents. Like, where were you on that one? How come I didn't get this sort of defense? I forgot to mention on What's Good, Pete Holmes as the husband.
Oh, yeah. He has some great moments.
Is fantastic. He is so likable in this movie. Just really, really good. I was just stunned by him. He was really good.
/ like, there were a couple moments and things he said that I'm like, I'm Pete Holmes. And I forgot that TV dinners looked like that.
Yes. There's a whole scene where he's got his TV dinner. It's got the tin foil on it. He's got it on his TV tray.
Yes.
Oh, man. I just started laughing immediately when that scene started happening. I was like, oh, goodness gracious. TV dinners.
They came a long way since then.
Oh, man. Y'all will never know. You youngins, you will never know the struggle of not having a microwave and having something called a TV dinner that you literally had to make in the oven. And it was basically a school lunch. Like, it had the little dividers. And you always had the carrots, which you never ate because those were gross.
Those always were gross, even in the ones you could microwave.
But imagine, like, those terrible microwavable meals they sell now. But at least you can eat them after 4 minutes.
Oh, yeah. You were supposed to let it set like 2 to 5 minutes.
Yeah. But these TV dinners, you put them in the oven with the tinfoil on it. They'd have to cook for like 30 minutes, 40 minutes. And then just crazy. Just nuts. And we liked it. We loved it.
Pete did.
Okay. I don't really have much not good. I will say, I think Lauren Graham, Lorelai Gilmore herself, as the narrator, was a weird choice.
I felt like it was more a name.
Yeah. But if you're going to have a name, like she's certainly the highest paid actor in this, right? Well, I mean, literally, she's narrating the movie, so she probably spends a lot of time in a recording studio.
I have a feeling that it is the mom.
Judy Greer? You think Judy Greer got paid more?
Probably got paid more.
Well, okay, so Lauren Graham's probably the biggest name, though. And honestly, you didn't need it. In fact, most of the time I was distracted by the narration because I'm like, hey, that's Lorelai Gilmore. Lorelai Gilmore is the narrator of this Christian movie.
So I saw her name attached to it, and I'm like, is that her voice?
The hilarious thing was, I noticed in the promotional material, they show her when she's like, literally, she's physically in this movie for what, 2 minutes?
At most.
Yeah. At the end. And so that was just a weird choice to me. Just a weird choice. Let's go to.
That's what we like to call a cash grab.
Yeah. Usually we would do recast right here. I mean, I suppose I could recast Lauren Graham, but I just don't know. Like, I would go with an unknown.
Like someone close to her age, I don't know who I'd go with. Someone older, I would go with the lady that is the mom on That 70s Show.
Oh,
Kitty.
Oh, that would have been great. You could have gone with Kitty.
Yes.
She'd have been great, but then, like, she doesn't look anything like the little girl.
Exactly.
Oh, man, that would have been good. So yeah, recast is hard for this one. So we're just going to go right to deeper themes. So we've talked a lot about a deeper theme, but do you have anything specific you want to talk about? Because I have one thing in particular.
So I guess I would just point out that redemption, and that no one is too far away for it and no one's too good for it, because throughout this whole movie, people are getting redeemed left and right, especially at the very end, and people that you thought were the worst of the worst actually are not that bad and have some unique circumstances, and people that you thought were hot stuff before may come back down to earth, but they too can also be redeemed. So
yeah, it's a wonderful journey you go on with the people in this movie. This journey of getting to a place where you understand that there's really not good and bad people. There's just less broken people and more broken people. And I love the journey they go on with that. And when it all kind of hits them in that moment at the end of the Christmas pageant is wonderful. There's one scene in particular that it was Niagara Falls. And it's going to be a weird scene.
Okay.
Because it just hits me. It just hit me so perfect. There's this scene where Imogene Herdman, the oldest Herdman, she's talking about her kind of dreams of being an actress.
Uh-huh.
Okay. And she's talking about what the movies mean to her. She's kind of going through this idea of like, it's like watching these stories. They were speaking to her in such a way, and she's describing what watching the stories on television and these movies have done for her and what they've taught her. And it's shown her this life that is possible, but she's getting all this, she's like abstracting some really deep things out of it in the moment. And I just started crying in the theater.
Yeah, I was not crying at this part, but I thought of you during this part.
Yes, I was crying because some of us who come to faith, like me, did not grow up in church. We weren't given these stories. And part of the reason we do what we do, that I do what I do, and it's because I love pop culture, but I love that these faithful things can speak through pop culture. That even though I didn't go to church, that there was some things in our stories that we create that are in the Bible. They're in our faith. So, for instance, I liked The Goonies because it was an adventure, but that's not really why I liked it. What spoke to me, and it took me a long time to realize this, was that it was the unity of the friends, the group.
Who all were unique in their own ways.
Yeah. I liked Star Wars because it was a space opera, because I was a little boy. But that's not really why I liked it. What spoke to me, what I really liked, was that someone who is so insignificant could change the course of the galaxy.
He almost jabbed his eye out with the lightsaber when he first got it.
And all of this hits me as she's describing the feeling that movies give her. And I'm like, yeah, that's it. She hasn't had the luxury of hearing this good news that these churchy people are supposed to be showing her. But they're not.
Yep.
But yet she has this sort of baseline of what we should be aiming for, what we should be striving for, and this at this point, but she's got like the exterior that's broken and she's trying to hide it.
She's tough.
Yeah, she's tough because she's had to be.
Yeah.
And anyways, I just loved that whole scene, and I'm just sitting in the theater blubbering, and my wife looked at me like, "What's wrong with you?"
So
I had to explain it to her later. Like, man, it just hit me because that was my experience. That was my experience, that there were themes in the stories and the movies I loved where I didn't realize that God was speaking to me.
That moment, or that scene in particular, I actually did think of you right as it was happening. I'm like, oh, Dave will relate to this.
Oh, I did, big time.
And then it was her in the pageant at the very end, tears pouring down her face, and
That's when everybody cried.
And I'm like, gosh darn it, my heart's growing 3 sizes.
Cody was like the Grinch, man. Oh, the heart was growing.
Oh, and so like the showing I went to, there was people there, and I'm so used to our theaters not having people, but the past couple of times I've been, there's been people, and like there's like little kids crying in front of me. There's old ladies crying next to me,
kids.
and I'm like, keep that tear in.
He's like willing the tear back up into his eye, like. Cody, you're so repressed.
A little bit.
All right, Cody, who's your winner of the movie?
So it will be Beatrice Schneider.
Yeah, I'm certainly she's got a chance, doesn't she?
Like I don't know, just because like you never know like what's going to happen in someone's life between now and their adult years. But if she continues acting, I'm hopeful. She really did a lot of heavy lifting for the movie. Especially amongst the kid actors.
Yeah, Canadian film, television voice, and stage actor. She was wonderful. There are moments in this movie where she says things with her eyes. And at a young age, that's pretty impressive. I was very impressed. I was either going to go with her, and then I changed
to Gladys
late, and I'm going to go with Dallas Jenkins.
Oh. Because
I think this is going to be a hit. It was, if we look at the box office right now, Venom Last Dance with number 1.
Venom!
I'm Venom! 16.2 million in its third weekend, but number 2 was The Best Christmas Pageant Ever with 11.1 million. And it beat Heretic, Wild Robot, which isn't doing as well as I thought it might, and Conclave. So and I think it's just Christmas movies like this, and especially Christian movies, tend to get stronger.
Yes.
I think this movie is going to make a lot of money, and I think Dallas Jenkins can just do whatever he wants now.
Blank check.
Is there a loser of the movie?
It might be Pete Holmes.
Yeah.
Because he gets, like, he has his moments, but, like, after you watch the movie, you're like, I could use more Pete.
Me too. He was really good, and yet he's kind of an afterthought.
Because, I mean, it's definitely centered around the little girl. Is her name Ruth?
Oh, she's it's like she's got 3 names. No, Beth Bradley.
Yeah,
the actress has 3 names.
Beth.
Molly Bell Wright.
Yes. So Beth, it's focused around Beth, and Beth's mom, Judy Greer, a.k.a. Grace, is the primary 2 good people, in quotations, and then all the Herdman kids, which Gladys made me laugh a lot. But then you just get snippets of Pete, and not enough Pete.
Yeah, I would probably agree with that, because I think he will be forgotten in this movie. And I just think that's sad because he was great. He was great. I was kind of shocked and surprised at how good he was.
Yes.
All right. How many baby Jesus dolls out of 10 are you giving this movie?
If we're going on the Christian movie scale, it's a 9.
It's always higher on the Christian movie scale.
If it's not, then I'll go 8 because I enjoyed it.
Yeah.
Like I can definitely say this isn't Citizen Kane by a long shot, but for a Christmas movie coming out at the very beginning of November, it's an 8.
On the Christian movie scale, it's a 9.5.
Yep.
On the Christmas movie scale, it's about an 8.5. On the actual cinematic movie scale, I'd give it about an 8. 7.5 or 8. It's good.
Yeah, I didn't want to be harsh because I nearly said 7.5. But
how is that harsh, man? That's good.
I'm trying to be a more positive, uplifting Cody this season.
Oh, wow. Okay. Here we go.
That's my Advent gift to you.
All right. Did you see the best Christmas pageant ever? What did you think of it? Make sure and tell us on the social media posts for this episode. Also, let us know what other Christian Christmas things you want us to review this Christmas season.
Please don't say the little drummer boy.
Please do not say the red one.
Oh, I thought you were going to say the Christmas shoes.
No, I'm
Because
not.
not only is it a song, but it's also a Hallmark movie.
No Christmas shoes ever at any time. All right. We'll see you next week.